The cafe was alive that evening, soft jazz music floating in the air, the aroma of roasted coffee beans wrapping the room in a kind of comfort that Daniel wished he could feel. He sat in the corner, wearing a shirt that had faded from too many washes, his sleeves carefully rolled to hide the frayed edges. It was his first blind date. He had saved for weeks to afford a meal here, hoping tonight might be the start of something new. But as the minutes stretched into an hour, that hope slowly sank. Every time the door opened, his heart jumped, and then fell again when it wasn't her. The waiter passed by, polite but pitying, asking if he wanted to order again. Daniel smiled faintly, maybe she's just running late. He tried to laugh, but the sound felt hollow. That's when a small voice broke through the noise. "Are you waiting for someone?" He turned. A little girl stood beside his table, curly hair, pink ribbon, eyes so full of curiosity it almost hurt to look. "I was," Daniel said, forcing a smile. "Maybe not anymore." She tilted her head, thinking, then whispered, "My mom says sometimes people don't show up because God wants you to meet someone better." Her words struck something deep inside him, not sadness, but an ache of unexpected warmth. "You're very kind," he said softly. The girl grinned and skipped away toward her mother, who sat a few tables away. Daniel followed her with his eyes and saw the woman, quiet, graceful, and smiling apologetically in his direction. For the first time that night, the chair across from him didn't feel quite so empty. The loneliness had softened, replaced by a gentle whisper of hope. Daniel couldn't shake the little girl's words. They lingered in his mind like a soft melody long after she'd skipped away. He sat there for a while, fingers tracing circles around his coffee cup, wondering why the kindness of a stranger could feel so heavy, and so healing. When he finally looked up, the girl's mother caught his gaze. She walked over, a shy smile on her lips. "I'm so sorry," she said gently. "She talks to everyone. I hope she didn't bother you." Daniel shook his head quickly, smiling. "Not at all. She made my night better." Her name was Grace. She looked tired, but there was kindness in her eyes, the kind that spoke of long days and longer nights. When she noticed his untouched plate, she hesitated. "If you'd like some company, I don't think anyone should eat alone." Her words disarmed him. After a moment, he nodded. "I'd like that." They talked for hours, about little things, old movies, and favorite songs that never got old. He told her about his furniture repair shop. She shared stories from the hospital where she worked as a nurse. When the check came, Daniel reached for his worn wallet, fumbling with coins. Grace quietly slipped a few bills under the napkin. He noticed, and for once, he didn't feel embarrassed. He just felt seen. As they stood to leave, Grace's daughter waved at him with her pink ribbon fluttering. Daniel smiled back, realizing that the night he thought would break his heart had somehow mended a small part of it instead. The table that once held disappointment now carried something else, the beginning of a story neither of them expected. Weeks passed, and what began as a chance encounter slowly bloomed into something tender and real. Daniel and Grace started meeting often, simple lunches, evening walks, sharing leftovers on park benches. Her daughter, Lily, adored him. She'd run into his arms whenever she saw him, giggling as he lifted her high, calling him, Mr. D. For Daniel, who had spent most of his life feeling unseen, those moments felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. He began fixing things for them, the creaky door, the broken lamp, even Grace's old rocking chair that had belonged to her husband. When he returned it, polished and sturdy again, Grace just stared at it for a long moment, eyes glistening. That night, she handed Daniel an envelope. Inside was a photograph, a man in uniform, smiling proudly. "That's my husband," she whispered. "He was a firefighter. He died 5 years ago saving 2 strangers. I didn't think I could ever open my heart again." Daniel's voice cracked. "I'm not trying to replace him." Grace smiled softly. "You're not. You're just reminding me that love doesn't always arrive on time, but it always arrives." Daniel hugged her, but inside, his chest ached with a different truth. He was sick, and had stopped his treatments months ago to save money. He hadn't told her. Watching Grace and Lily laugh across the room, he felt both joy and heartbreak. "If I can't stay forever," he thought, "maybe I can leave something that lasts." He didn't know how much time he had left, but he knew what to do with it. Love them with everything he had. Months later, the small joys that filled Daniel's days began to fade into quiet exhaustion. He moved slower, laughed softer, and hid the pain behind his easy smile. Grace noticed, but he always brushed it off. Just tired, he'd say. One evening, she prepared his favorite soup and set the table for 3. But Daniel never came. The next morning, she found an envelope slipped beneath her door, his handwriting shaky but gentle. Grace, it began, if you're reading this, I'm probably with your husband now, somewhere peaceful, somewhere full of light. Please don't be sad. You gave me something the doctors couldn't, a reason to live fully, even when my body couldn't. You and Lily made me believe that love doesn't need a perfect ending to be real. Tell her I didn't leave. I just went to fix the broken chair upstairs. Her tears fell freely as she clutched the letter. At his funeral, the cafe owner approached her with red eyes. He prepaid for your meals, he said softly. A whole year. There was a note attached to the receipt, for the little girl who reminded me that sometimes, being stood up is just God's way of sitting you at the right table. The cafe played its soft jazz again that evening. Grace and Lily sat at the same corner table, the one that started it all. Across from them sat Daniel's old chair, empty, but not lonely. A small bouquet of white flowers and Lily's pink ribbon rested on the seat, glowing in the golden light. Grace smiled through tears. The man who had once been forgotten had left behind something unforgettable, love that refused to fade, even in absence. Years later, the cafe still stood. The same warm lights, the same aroma of roasted beans, the same table by the window. Only this time, a young woman sat there, Lily, all grown up, radiant and poised. In front of her was a small camera and a notebook titled, The Gentle Impact. It was her tribute to the man who had changed everything. With a deep breath, she began recording. My mom once told me, she said softly, that the greatest love stories don't start with fireworks, they start with kindness. Her voice trembled, but her eyes sparkled. She spoke about Daniel, the man who showed her what quiet love looked like, who fixed broken things not just with his hands, but with his heart. The video wasn't just a story, it was a thank you, to the man who had taught her that being kind was a legacy, not a gesture. As she finished filming, a nervous young man entered the cafe, scanning the room. He looked lost, clutching flowers. Lily smiled knowingly. Are you waiting for someone? She asked. Yeah, he said softly, but I think she's not coming. Lily leaned closer, her smile gentle, almost like an echo from long ago. Sometimes, she whispered, people don't show up because God wants you to meet someone better. The young man looked up, startled, and for a fleeting moment, the warmth in her eyes carried Daniel's reflection. She didn't notice the cafe owner watching from behind the counter, smiling through tears. As the piano music swelled, the camera zoomed out, capturing the same corner table, the same pink ribbon, and the same feeling of gentle hope reborn.